What a great way to start Alaska Matters Radio. Homer's very own Lincoln Brewster. Huh? How about that? Man, that guy's just incredible. And anybody that knew him while he was here in Homer knew how incredible he was. Just an amazing artist. Guess what? Lincoln Brewster is coming back to Alaska sometime in June. He's going to be part of the Love Alaska Festival. It was my honor and privilege yesterday. By the way, I'm Christopher Story, your host for Great Adventures in the Last Frontier, broadcasting live today from the corner of West Hill and the Sterling Highway, the broadcast nerve center of all things prosperous and possible. David Webb back up at the mothership of KPEN, making this all possible, spinning the dials and making everybody smile. God, that was awful. We'll edit that out of the podcast, which will be available at AlaskaMattersRadio.com, AlaskaMattersRadio.com. I'm fully medicated, by the way. That should be stipulated at the forefront of the program, that I am heavily medicated. Mucinex is on board, a variety of other brands that I will not at this time promote until we find out how well they work. As you can tell, not at 100% vocal capacity today. But don't worry, liberals and naysayers and limp-wristed folks everywhere. I am fully in charge and in command of my vocal cords and will not allow any idiocy to go by unseen or unnoticed or certainly not commented on. So there'll be plenty of commentary on the program. As I was stating, it was my honor and privilege yesterday to meet a man I'd never even heard of, and I felt a little bit silly and sheepish after I interviewed him when I looked him up and Googled him. His name is Dr. Luis Palau. And an amazing guy, great guy, an evangelist that travels the world, has had many meetings with President Clinton. As you can imagine, that probably was necessary often, and President George W. Bush and other world leaders, and just a great guy. And here I am talking to him yesterday, clueless, and just fascinated by the fact that he's coming to Alaska. He's putting on a festival. Lincoln Brewster, whom you just heard from, will be one of the highlighted artists and featured artists there at the Love Alaska Festival. I'll tell you more about it. In fact, you'll hear from Dr. Luis Palau next week on this program. Now, Thursday, I want to highlight something right here. Thursday, Lieutenant Governor Loren Leman, former Lieutenant Governor Loren Leman, will be my guest on Thursday. The topic, opposition to or in favor of Proposition 1. Where do you think Loren Leman stands? Will it surprise you? You'll have to tune in on Thursday for Radio Realty at 1 o'clock. Loren Leman will be my guest, and we'll discuss all things Proposition 1. Will SB 21 live, or will it die? It's in your hands. Many are saying, will prosperity for Alaska and all of Alaskans live or die? It's in your hands. And you'll notice that little red signs are popping up in rights of way without permission everywhere. And I know that because I know a property owner who happened to notice that, hey, right in the right of way in front of my property is one of these no on, or is it yes on? I forget. It's the opposition to SB 21. See, I need to get my head around which way to vote on this thing. And I believe it's going to be no on one, because that would then effectively kill the proposition and SB 21 would stay in place. That's my opinion. Not going to hide that at all. That's just my personal opinion. I'm bringing in experts. I'm bringing in people, though, to educate us both, because I want to make sure my opinion is correct. I keep hearing this, it's our oil. No, it's not. It's not your oil. You get an oil rig, you get a $1 billion, you put a company together, you wildcat, you go up and hire people, pay the insurance, go through the EPA regulatory challenges, you go through everything that it takes to get a drop in the engineering. You get one drop of oil, and you can call it yours. At this time, you and I have rights to the oil, right? And we have royalties that come from others' sweat and equity and investment. That's where I want to draw that line, is that we're certain that we don't mistake that it is not your oil. We have the right to it, and others, we sell the right to extract it, and it becomes, guess what? Their oil at that time, and they owe us some money. But I think it's important to discuss it and look at it in that capacity. Hey, don't go anywhere. Our Alaskan Mind Bender, brought to you by Blackwater Bend Espressos on deck, and much, much more here on Alaska Matters Radio. I'm Christopher Story, your host for Great Adventures in the Last Frontier, broadcasting live from Story Productions here at the corner of West Hill and the Sterling Highway. David Webb is your engineer and producer back up at the mothership of KPEN 102 FM. By the way, our website is awesome, brought to you courtesy of GTL Designs. GTL Designs, Dave McCormick, awesome web guy. If you need him, go to gtlenterprises.com. And one other big shout out here at the top of the program, the bottom of the hour, top of the program, and that would be to Horizon Satellite and Horizon Wireless. Leif Peterson and crew over there on Heath Street in Homer, Alaska. Let me tell you something. DirecTV, Dish Network, whichever brand you want to go with, go for it with Horizon Satellite. These guys, over 10 years of impeccable, wonderful service, and also their wireless communications. I'm telling you, Mr. Becker is no slack when it comes to slouch, I was going to say, when it comes to technology. He recognized immediately what Horizon Satellite had to offer, which is the reason that this program is being broadcast with a millisecond delay from my office to your radio. That's incredible technology, only found available at Horizon Wireless. That is Horizon with an H. Leif Peterson and crew, thank you so much. We are forever in your debt. All right, No on One. I want to talk about that, and I've got some interesting Facebook replies to that, by the way. I want to read one of them. If you're not a friend with me already on Facebook, shame on you. Let's get together. Find me, friend me. We'll have some fun together. Facebook, and I'm Chris Story. You can also find me at Chris Story on Top of the World. Your constitutional moment brought to you today by Staytan of Homer. Come in and grab some sun on the run. I wrote that myself, by the way. Have some sun on the run. Show off those tan legs this summer and meet the new owners. They're anxious to meet you. Jamie and Richard, welcome them to Alaska. They're hardy Texans, and they found a new home in Alaska, and they are the new proud owners of Staytan of Homer. Their new adventure in the Great Land is going to be great, and you can help make it a little better. Give them a call, 235-2, that's a number 2, TAN. Staytan of Homer in the Point of View Plaza, or call 235-2. TAN. Article 1, Declaration of Rights of the Alaska Constitution. I feel a little bit compelled, and obligated to share the Constitution because I'm wanting to educate myself more in the Alaska Constitution, immerse myself in it, and stay aware of it because it's something that I was not taught in school. And I'm not, making any, I'm not disparaging the public education system at all. It just happens any classes I was in, it was not discussed, and it just never was part of my education. So I'm bringing myself up to speed, and I find it fascinating. I should mention this first. I'm holding a coin that my grandfather gave my mom, and it's an indeterminable year. I don't know what year he gave her this medallion. Actually, not a coin. It's like this giant, about 2 inches across, and it's about a 1/4 inch thick, and it's bronze. And it's a coin or a medallion that has the seal of Alaska on one side, which is beautiful artwork, by the way. And I'm an artist, so I can render an opinion on that and have it be validated by the arts community, which I'm sure embraces me. And then on the front side, it says Alaska, and there's the United States embossed, and over the top of it is the entirety of Alaska, which just dwarfs almost every other state. It's a fantastic immersion of art and irony, if you will. And it says January 3rd, 1959. This is a beautiful coin, and I keep it here on my desk. Just recently, my mom gave this to me, said that your grandpa would want you to have it. And so it's going to have a cherished place here in my life. But it reminds me, though, to look back to our Alaska Constitution, and may it ever be close to our minds and hearts. And here's the Declaration of Rights, number 1, Article 1, Inherent Rights. This Constitution is dedicated to the principles that all persons have a natural right to life. What do you think that means? All persons have a natural right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and the enjoyment of the rewards of their own industry. Their own industry. Why doesn't it say other people's industry? I'm having a hard time figuring that one out. That all persons are equal and entitled to equal rights, opportunities, and protection under the law, and that all persons have corresponding obligations to the people and to the state. Never does it say you owe me something. Why doesn't it say that? Why doesn't it say that I deserve pieces of the fruits of your labor? I don't understand what our forefathers were thinking. Article number 2, source of government. Oh, I love this one. If I'm going to get a tattoo, I'm thinking about getting the lower back tattoo, the tramp stamp, or maybe something on my calf or something like that. I think it will be this. All political power is inherent in the people. All government originates with the people, is founded upon their will only, and is instituted solely for the good of the people as a whole. Wow. Think about that. That is power. That is power. And it's aggregated amongst all of you, not in one person's hand. That's one of the most genius couple of sentences strung together that we could possibly have asked for. So that is your constitutional moment, brought to you by Statan of Homer. Time to lighten things up just a little bit. Let me make sure that I've got my drum handy. Okay, excellent. Yes, there will be sound effects today. In part because, let me actually do this. Let me treat the instrument to a little Blackwater Bend espresso. This is my dad's favorite part. Oh, that is good. That is good. Do you see what happened there? All of a sudden, I got a bravado back in my voice. I'm suddenly just machismo. Yes, Blackwater Bend brings you machismo. Excellent. On the lighter side, okay, this is brought to you by Anchor Point Natural Foods. I went in, so I wanted to do something nice for Tiffany today. I like to do something nice for my wife every day. In part, I give her just something great to look at. I sculpt my body. I have my hair coiffed on a daily basis by professionals or myself. I like to look good as best I can, but I also like to do nice things and go out of my way to do nice things. So I went to Anchor Point Natural Foods. I stopped in like 10 minutes early. Tara said, come on in. You think you own the place or something just because you do our commercials? Yeah, I'll do a certain extent. And I looked around the store, which is, by the way, over 90% GMO free. So you can't swing a dead cat in there without finding a non-GMO product. And so I just wanted to get something nice for Tiffany. So what do you think I got her? I wanted to do something nice. I wanted to get her something just to show that I appreciate her and that she's sweet. Guess what it was? Local honey. That's right, local honey. I got her like a quart or whatever. I don't know my sizes that well. The pints. I'm not. Hey, what am I? Some sort of scientist or something? A quart, half quart, something of not a quart. Gosh, what would it be, like a half pint? That's ridiculous. Of honey. It was incredible honey. And so anyway, great stuff. Heirloom seeds. We're going to get some more seeds for our garden this year down there at Anchor Point Natural Foods. Make Anchor Point Natural Foods your first stop towards healthy living and healthy foods. Online, apnaturalfoods.com, or you can call Tara yourself, 399-7900, and please don't tell her anything about me saying you can't swing a dead cat in there, because that's probably not what she was going for. All right, what do you call a boy who finally stood up to the bullies? An ambulance. Hey, I can say that because I was bullied. And it made me tougher. And I'm not supporting bullying and all that and bossy young girls, but I am just saying that I was bullied myself. Did you hear about the race between the lettuce and the tomato? The lettuce was ahead and the tomato was trying to catch up. Oh! Dave, prepare. We're probably going to lose this sponsor if you would. What did the bacon say to the tomato? Let us get together. That's not good. What do you call a dinosaur with extensive vocabulary? An extensive vocabulary. A thesaurus. All right, the last one, I promise you. Did you ever hear about the movie Constipation? Well, it never came out. And that's probably as far as I should go. Let's see here. Oh, I never did get to the Alaska Mindbender. Blackwater Bend. I'll do that in just a moment. We're going to say hello to a sponsor who might still be with us. In a moment, we'll be back here on Alaska Matters Radio. I'm Chris Story, and you're listening to Alaska Matters Radio, what my mom calls the greatest show on earth. You can listen back to it at alaskamattersradio.com, alaskamattersradio.com. It's time for your Alaskan Mindbender, brought to you by Blackwater Bend Espresso. You know, I was out there just not long ago, and I got myself a delicious coffee, and I said to myself, what a unique name. Their names are like Chum, Coho, and King. I believe are the 3 or 4 different sizes that they've got there of their different coffee names. And I'd never noticed it before. And I was told by the lovely barista that actually it's been that way for a long time, but they just have a new sign, and I was able to pull that out. I thought that was genius. I mean, really, come on. That's Blackwater Bend Espresso. Now, if you haven't tried a Bender blender yet, a blender bender, you're not living. It's hand-dipped ice cream, perfectly mixed with coffee. Oh, man. I feel like, in fact, I think I may send Tiffany to get me a Bender blender. I know it's not vegan, whatever. I don't care. It's the official start of summer. Blackwater means coffee. Blackwater Bend Espresso means gourmet coffee. Here's your question. This almost sounds, this is just, I couldn't make this stuff up if I tried to a certain extent, and I thought I would try. And so if that's not confusing enough, try this. True or false? This is a real Alaska statute. True or false? This is a real Alaska statute. It is the state policy that emergencies are held to a minimum and are rarely found to exist. Is that an actual Alaska statute? True or false? Send me your best guess and answer to 299-7653. You've got a 50-50 chance of being right here, folks. 299-7653. True or false? Is this a real state statute? It is the state policy that emergencies are held to a minimum and are rarely found to exist. I want to send you a coffee card. I actually send you 2 Blackwater Bend Espresso for a coffee card. It could be you. Enter to win right now. Send me a text message at 299-7653. I see they're already coming in, and just keep them coming because it's an enter to win type thing. It could be you. I told you once before I've got some guilty pleasures. One of them is listening to, now, this is a new one, I like to listen to a particular podcast about pottery. And so I was listening to it yesterday as I was working. I was doing my work at my desk, and I had this on. And Calhoun came over, and he said, "What are you listening to?" I said, "Oh, it's a podcast about pottery." He just shook his head, and he said, "Oh, man." He just about put me to sleep at my desk. But there's something about people talking about something that you enjoy as being enjoyable. I don't understand it. I really don't. But that brings me to this point. If you've not read it yet, I thought Christina Whiting did a beautiful job in writing a piece about the show that I currently have at the Fireweed Gallery. And so I bring it up to ask you to consider, if you're in the area or you're planning to come into the Homer area anytime during May, to stop in and check it out. It's My Pottery. There's Zen gardens and ceremonial tea bowls. And a reminder that we actually are raising money for the Kachemak Board of Realtors program called Catch a Kid, and it's to benefit the foster children of our area. And so it's a program that our realtor group has devised and put together in conjunction with the Child Services and the foster group there. And so basically we're providing these bags of stuff, everything from blankets, toiletries, craft items, art supplies, everything that you would want a child to have as they're making a potentially just really, really horrific transition in their life. And we want we want them to know that someone loves them and cares about them. And so that's what the show is about, is essentially raising money for that group. And so I was happy to partner with Fireweed Gallery on that. And so if you pop in there and buy something, know that the proceeds are going to a great, great cause. But the reason I brought it up is because of a last line. The last line in this article is important. And I know it's something I said, but I didn't invent it. I didn't create it. And that's why I want to highlight it. I said, this is the last couple paragraphs of the article. It says, "This exhibit is proof to me that you should never give up on your dream," Story said. 20 years ago, one gallery curator's rejection provided a hard blow to Story's confidence. Please, that's true. Since that time, he has learned the importance of what he calls picking you. Picking you means not waiting for permission from somebody else to do something that you want to do, he said. You just have to try it, whatever it is, for you. I want to unpack that a little bit. I hate that phrase, but I'm going to use it because I really, the young people today are using that a lot in media. Let's unpack that. You know what? Never mind. I just don't like it, but I use it because I don't like it, and I hope that one day I'll either adopt it or they'll stop using it. So what does it mean to pick you? If you're waiting, I just have this feeling that I'm not the only one, that I waited 20 years for somebody to pick me and say, "Hey, what do you think, Chris? You want to have a show?" No, it wasn't going to happen. I mean, that's picking you, right? You have to go out there and do what you want to do. And become, so long as you're not adversely affecting others, and that's obviously the counterpoint, but you have to decide it's your time, because you were really born with a set of principles inside of you and the seeds of greatness and a real purpose. There is something that you are supposed to be doing. And that leads me to another article in the Homer Tribune last week, and it was my point of view regarding what you're worth. And so basically picking you marries into this concept of doing what it is you're supposed to do. And when you're working out of alignment and you're doing something that brings not only, doesn't bring joy, but actually is something you dread. You get up going to work and dread it. Oh gosh, is it Sunday night already? Oh man, I got to go back to work Monday. I mean, it's statistically proven that more people have heart attacks on Monday than any other day of the week because they're not congruently living on purpose and living their purpose. So that was another point that we unpacked in the Tribune last week. You can still pick up the Homer Tribune wherever papers are sold or go to homertribune.com. Well, Dan went to the homertribune.com, and I'm making this point in my point of view that you need to do what it is that you're here to do and to live on purpose and live in alignment with what it is that you're meant to do. That's whether you're here in Alaska, you're in the lower 48, or you're over in Crimea. Wherever you are, well, whoever you are, it doesn't matter. Here in America, of course, we have a Constitution that protects our inalienable rights. So we are obviously a leg up. That said, I'm making the point in part because I'm a little bit upset by the Homer City Council looking to triple, or some on the Homer City Council looking to triple their wages. And I was making the point, you don't go into elected office to become comfortable, complacent, and well paid. That is not why we want you or me or anybody else to run for elected office. And so that was in part what I was saying in What Are You Worth? Well, Dan writes here, and I have to share Dan's comment because I think it's actually better than my point of view. He starts off just beautifully. Chris is right. Governmental entities are out of control, Dan writes. They spend other people's money for things that citizens do not want or need. Basic services are important, but everyone is frustrated with the ever-increasing expenditures of government and the shrinking of the private sector, not to mention the intense pressure on private businesses from taxes and other payments for the, quote, government. Voluntary political service is a great idea. Career politicians are part of the reason America is on a financial collision course. Volunteers could be compensated for travel. I would replace the word could with should. Could be compensated for travel, stipends for housing, but why should congressmen be paid so much more than the average American? Here's where the genius begins. Another option would be to pay them minimum wage. The idea is simple and righteous. Serve the government because it's an honor, not because it's a paid position that further drains the private sector. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. That is genius. Minimum wage. Really. Would Congressman Young still be in office? Now, I'm, on the one hand, celebrating him for how he handled Sally Jewell relative to the King Cove Road. Absolutely. He nailed that dead to rights. But my point is, if he were paid minimum wage, if Senator Mark Begich was paid minimum wage, would he be spending $6 million for the job? They get almost $200,000 a year in the Senate. Why is that? I think Dan brings up an incredible point. Why nearly $200,000? You know what that is? Over the 6 years that Senator Begich will have been in office, $1.02 million in salary, not to mention net benefits. That's 6 years. For what? I mean, and he's amassed a war chest of his and mostly other people's money, $6 million to spend to keep that seat. It's a flawed system, folks, and it's time to bring Senator Begich home. And it's time to really bring home some decision-making power here. And what about some sort of a revolutionary idea where you don't get $200,000 a year to go to D.C.? It's actually a stipend. You will eat probably in the commons and cafeteria. I mean, they've got medical supplies. They've got everything they need there. We can supply all that. That's no problem. But it should be a hardship financially. And in addition to being a financial hardship, what about term limits? You know, it just starts with a conversation like you and I are having right now. We're sitting in a room, you and I are having a conversation, and if enough of us have the same conversation, no matter which side of the bird you're on, the left wing or the right wing, it doesn't matter. Because eventually you're going to have your Steny Hoyers, you're going to have your Franks and Dodds, and then on the other side, you're going to have your Congressman Young, and you're going to have your John Boehners and people that have been in power for far too long. And in fact, may have lost the sense of service and what it really means to serve the people. So it's a genius idea. Dan proposes here that perhaps our elected officials ought to receive not more than minimum wage. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I just like to cap all of that by saying, let's bring home Begich. Let's bring him home. Let's bring him home, let him come back to the state that he loves, and he can snow machine up on the North Slope all he wants, as long as he wants to. Hey, when we come back, I want to talk about the Kenai Peninsula Assembly and their insurance package and how we can maybe trim a little bit of the budget there. And an opinion on Proposition 1. I want to share this. We've got a couple of people that actually work on the slope weighing in on it. And, an article on the New York Times I think is interesting, and a warning sign that your life may be on the line. And bath salts. What do you think about that? A lot of stuff going on here. A lot of stuff. Plus, we'll answer the Mindbender here on Alaska Matters Radio. I'm Chris Story, your host for Great Adventures in the Last Frontier, barely broadcasting still from the corner of West Hill and the Sterling Highway, the nerve center of all things possible and prosperous. David Webb is your engineer, back up at the mothership of KPEN 102 FM. I want to thank you for being here. You really are the greatest audience on earth. My mom always says that, in addition to the fact that this is statistically proven to be the greatest show on earth. In addition to Thursday's Radio Realty, which, by the way, our guest will be Loren Leman, former Lieutenant Governor Loren Leman. He's going to weigh in on Proposition 1. I'd actually love to hear from you on that. I put it out on Facebook earlier, which, by the way, if we're not already friends, you should friend me, find me, and we'll have some fun together, and ask folks to weigh in on it, because I've got my opinions, but you know what? I'm curious. I'm always curious. I want to know what you think. And when you ask the audience, you get a large variety, and a lot of times you just get a very surprising answer. So if you'd like to weigh in on Proposition 1, good, bad, or indifferent, I'm not going to criticize your opinion. I just want to hear it. Text me 299-7653. Text 299-7653. What do you think about Proposition 1? You can keep it short since it's a textual message, and I can share that with your permission. Blackwater Bend Espresso, bringing you the Alaskan Mindbender question, and this is the true or false portion of the program. Is this a real statute in the state of Alaska or not? True or false? Is this real? It is the state policy that emergencies are held to a minimum and are rarely found to exist. It is state policy that emergencies are held to a minimum and rarely are found to exist. Text me now, 299-7653. From my grandfather's library, Grandpa Art, avid, voracious reader. This book has been on my bookshelf since his passing, and I've just not had an opportunity to open it up until about 5 days ago, maybe 4 days ago. I haven't been able to put it down since. It's called The Secret of the Ages by Robert Collier. And I didn't know who Robert Collier was, and I've done a little research since then. This book was written in 1926, and I want to share a small passage of this book, just a paragraph. Let me share this with you. I was just thinking about my grandpa sitting in his library. I don't know when he got the book. I presume sometime in maybe the 50s. And, he was probably 20 or 30 years old at the time, maybe even considered a classic by then. I'm not sure. And I just envision him sitting here in Alaska, owning his grocery store, and living his dream on 160 acres. He had horses, he had a mule, he had a wonderful, beautiful, loving wife and two amazing girls, and he was living truly in what he must have considered the land of milk and honey. And he owned commercial real estate, he owned his own residence, he owned the 160 acres that I just told you about with the fields and his horses and his barn. This is a kid who grew up in Detroit, and now here he is post-World War II, living in Alaska, and just living what must just have been a dream. And he's reading the following words. The person who thinks and talks and expects poverty is drawn into the poverty thought, the currents of the world, and attracts to himself and others those who think and talk along the same lines, and vice versa. The person who talks and thinks and expects wealth comes to it. It's a law of attraction, right? If you think in terms of poverty, you'll find it. If you think there's not enough, you'll not have enough. I just love that. That's incredible. This is 1926, written by John Collier, Secret of the Ages. I'm going to keep reading, and I'll share more tidbits with you from my grandpa's library. Fantastic stuff. I mentioned earlier this coin. It's a medallion, whatever. Big, heavy, weighted deal. And it made me think about this. 1959, the state of Alaska came in January 3rd, 1959, the 49th state. You know what was already here in 1959? The Bayview Inn here in Homer. No, here he goes again. Son of a gun. Yep, the Bayview Inn is still not operable. The Bayview Inn in Homer, the city council refuses, I guess, I don't know what else it could be, to accept the fact that this was a business in Homer prior to Homer existing, prior to state of Alaska even being a state, prior to zoning existing in Homer. And I find it deplorable that the Bayview Inn is mothballed and for a zoning law to exist that would not allow that business to continue for the fact that the owner and the proprietor had a horrible incident. He fell into a well and died. He fell into a deep culvert and died, tragically. His heirs are not able to sell it as a business. Why? Well, they weren't running it within 12 months of his death. Isn't that just too bad? That's awful. And John Calhoun made a great point to me this morning. I was telling him about my frustration with this, and I feel like I'm talking into a vacuum, maybe even a fan. And you know what hits the fan? And that's what I feel like. I don't feel like anybody cares. I don't. If anyone listening cared, how could you sit in another city council meeting? How could you be the city manager of a community like this and care for anybody and allow this kind of miscarriage of justice to go on? And so I just don't think anybody cares. And so I told John, I said, I'm kind of thinking, just let it go. You know, just forget it. Just let it go. What does it matter? At this point, what difference does it make? The Bayview Inn will just be mothballed. It will just rot and dilapidate. We won't have extra sales tax from those rooms rented out. We won't have extra income and jobs. Property tax is probably going to go down. I mean, as it dilapidates and rots, right? And the miscarriage of justice relative to the Fifth Amendment and the taking of that property, the use of it, and taking away the use of it for a silly rule. Come on. Nobody cares. That's the conclusion I'm coming to, that you just don't care. If you're in Homer right now and you're hearing the sound of my voice, and you've not written about it, you've not said anything to the mayor, you've not said anything to the council, you've not gone to the administration and said anything, okay, it's over. And you're next. This is my point. You and I are next. My fence is in the right of way. And the state of Alaska has been fantastic about it. But the planning department so had an eye towards punishing me, they wouldn't allow the state right-of-way department to simply provide a letter stating no objection. They wouldn't allow it. Absolutely not. And they pushed the point up the line in the chain of command, such that I was given an ultimatum by the state. Hey, sorry, got to get it out of there, buddy. My question is this: what are we doing in our community? And Homer, Alaska is no exception to this. I mean, this is not an unusual set of circumstances. Go to the internet, download something from the tubes, and you're going to find lots and lots of cases of these little small-minded officiants and small-minded busybodies that want to use collectivism to destroy the individual and individual rights that are inalienable. They cannot be given by the little people. They are given to you by God. And does God give me the right to put my fence in? No. But the point is that I'm being targeted for speaking out. So if that's part of your concern, I get it. I do get it. If you don't want to speak out about the Bayview Inn, you don't want your business to be targeted, you don't want to be targeted, I get it. But I'm telling you, if we allow the Bayview Inn to be shuttered by the Homer City Council and the city manager, and I'm sorry, but the city manager's got to take responsibility for this. You stand up and you take a job for $180,000 a year to run this community, then by God, you own this issue too. And you've got to find a solution. May I ask you to direct your attention to another dear friend of the program, Don Blackwell, whose property has been in a state of limbo for 8 years because the city manager, Walter Reedy, said at that time there was no need to rezone the property. He had an administrative solution, and yet here we are waiting all those years later. All these years later, it's time for a regime change here in Homer, and it starts with you. It starts with you saying enough. Bayview Inn is a good business that ought to be allowed to continue forward. And if you didn't even know Dennis, he was a great guy, community member, very, very humanitarian, terrific guy. I've said enough. And maybe you don't care. It's fine. I'll just let it be my problem. And, well, it's not. It's going to be all of our problems before we know it. Blackwater Bend Espresso, the question will be answered, true or false. Is it a state policy that emergencies are held to a minimum and are rarely found to exist? 299-7653, your last opportunity to weigh in. We'll be back with more here on Alaska Matters Radio.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
What?
Oh, I needed a little bit of humor in my day. That's great. That's from Dodgeball. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. You also had him out there dodging cars. That was great. Speaking of cars, Napa Auto Parts in Homer brings you this half hour of the program, Alaska Matters Radio, courtesy of Napa Auto Parts in Homer. Kevin and Courtney Kyle want to remind you that their big tent sale is on May 20th. You are invited to come down and meet Kevin and crew, the entire crew at Napa Auto Parts, in addition to the very infamous Mr. Tim White. He'll be broadcasting live from there. Dealer reps and experts, huge sales, giveaways, and door prizes, including, get this, ERA, or I guess they're going by Raven now, plane tickets. Let me put it that way. Plane tickets, free food. Kevin and crew at Napa Auto Parts, they want to see you on May 20th. It's their way of saying thank you to the community that has supported them. And let me just say this personally. This is coming from me. They've supported you as well. Kevin and crew at Napa Auto Parts in Homer, they've been there with us through thick and thin and for a long time, and they are local. Kevin and Courtney are as local as it gets. So they bring you the Napa name and know-how, trademark, and the brand because it's the best quality and at the best prices. Napa, any real Alaskan knows that Napa Auto Parts in Homer is local, and that's where you go. The New York Times has got an interesting article in their Business Day section. And who is this written by? Reed Abelson. He says, in the midst of all the turmoil in healthcare these days, one thing is becoming clear. No matter what kind of health plan consumers choose, they'll find fewer doctors and hospitals in their network or pay much more for the privilege of going to any provider they want. I just want to say thank you, Senator Begich. Thank you for that. And we hope to see you home real soon. A warning sign, beware of any group or agency that is pushing collective solutions. This is a warning from me to you. It's not a subtle code either, collectivism. I mean, really, it's the loss of individualism. So when you see a group that's putting together, let's say, a survey or a study, and they're using the word collective, that's not even veiled, people. It's right there. It's not even veiled. It's collectivism, and you will be ground into submission. It's dangerous, and don't do it. It's a little bit of a, I don't know why I'm so macabre today. I don't mean to be. I'm in a very good mood. I really am. But I do believe, what am I, Captain Kirk? I really am. But I just feel so imperative and just led to tell you that we are slowly but surely losing our rights as individuals. It's becoming more and more apparent every single day. And so if you see a study, you're asked to participate in a study or a community outreach program, quote, community outreach program, and we just want to study something for the collective interest or the collective agenda, please run away from it. Don't participate. Don't buy into it. And don't allow it to continue. We need individualism. We need that rugged individualism that made America great. Speaking of which, let me answer this first. I don't want this to get away from me. I want to thank Robbie. Robbie is our winner for our Alaska Matters Mindbender question. And the question was, Robbie's in Seward, by the way, so that's an easy one to give away, right? Although Robbie will get on this side of the peninsula at some point and collect his Blackwater Bend Espresso coffee card. Or, hey, you know what, Robbie? Pick up a bag of their beans. Take those back with you over there to Seward. That's fantastic. Okay, it really is a statute that states, let me just read from the statute. I've got it written down here. I don't know if you can hear that, but this is actual statute in writing. In order to issue emergency regulations, the Department of Revenue must make a written finding, including a statement that the facts constitute an emergency, and that the adoption of the regulation or order or repeal is necessary for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, safety, or general welfare. That is AS 44.62.250. The legislature has advised that it is state policy that emergencies are held to a minimum and are rarely found to exist. That is AS 44.62.270. That's great. It is state policy that emergencies are held to a minimum and are found rarely to exist. That's great. Thank you, Robbie, and thank you, everybody else, for participating in that question. And thank you, Blackwater Bend Espresso, Pat and the gang out there making amazing gourmet coffee. I don't care if you pay for it or not. You're a winner every time you go to Blackwater. Well, I shouldn't say I don't care if you pay for it or not. If you didn't win, you should pay for it. Don't just drive off with your coffee. My goodness. See, I told you I was on medications here, but I'm actually, let me take some of this. I'm breathing doTERRA. It's a breathe blend. Oh, it's really good. Much to the detriment of all liberals, it's what's keeping me going today. Kenai Peninsula Borough Assembly, I want to talk to you directly. I've recently found out that you are getting $18,600 a year in health insurance. I'm not jealous. I'm not envious. I'm not, what's the word? I can't think of a better word other than jealous or envious. No, I don't care. You do a good job, most of you, some of you, a couple of you, do a good job. And I think you should be appreciated, and et cetera. But here's what it does. You're taking $130,000 approximately out of the coffers every year for health insurance for an elected body. And I find that highly inappropriate. Highly inappropriate. At the same time, we're saying you're not paying enough in property taxes, seniors. And, oh, by the way, you want to obviate the term limits that voters imposed upon the assembly. All the while, what's never discussed is the health insurance they're getting for $18,600 a year, equivalent to a department head at the borough, and that's inappropriate. And it's time to cut that budget right now. I applaud Assemblyman Brent Johnson for trying to do just that. And I've not heard of the one thing I did hear was, well, it wouldn't look good to have an assemblyman owing the hospital a lot of money. Well, please, what? So we're going to spend $130,000+ a year for volunteers. No, it's inappropriate, and it lends itself to the smell that I just brought up, which is, remember the term limits thing they've been trying to overturn ever since you voted for it? Well, it just kind of, the appearance of impropriety. I think for that sake alone, I'm okay with the $500 a month. Travel expenses, of course, I think that should be reimbursed. Absolutely. And even some sort of per diem if there's mandatory travel to D.C. or Juneau. Fine, I get all that. But this is egregious. This $130,000+ a year coming out of the coffers to provide insurance, inappropriate, wrong, and it needs to be done away with, in my never-to-be humble opinion. We're going to take one more quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk about the Proposition 1, and I've got an opinion that I'll read to you from our Facebook post about that earlier today here on Alaska Matters Radio. I'm Chris Story, your host for Great Adventures in the Last Frontier. You're listening to Alaska Matters Radio, what my mom calls the greatest show on earth. Your life is on the line. Online, literally, HIV and syphilis cases have spiked in Alaska this year, and the state health officials say the majority of those diagnosed found their sexual partners online. Healthcare facilities have reported 20 new cases of HIV and 20 cases of infectious syphilis so far in 2014, according to preliminary numbers from the state health department. Last year, the department recorded a total of 24 new reports for HIV and 31 cases of infectious syphilis. Wow. The sex was often casual, they say, and anonymous. Sometimes they didn't even know the person's real name, and they just knew the person's computer handle. What is happening out there? I don't get it. Honestly. I was just shocked when I read that in yesterday's paper. Just absolute shock and awe. In my little state? Really? Oh, man. Ugh. I feel like I need to go shower. Before we talk about Proposition 1, Mr. David Webb has got some update relative to the power outage that affected, 6,000 people this morning. Dave, what's the latest? All right. Thank you, Mr. Webb. You can always count on KPEN for the latest in breaking news. That's right. It's like Eye on the News, Webb on the News. Bath salts off to prison where he better not drop the soap. That's right. An Anchorage jury has convicted 32-year-old man of possessing bath salts. Yeah, it's a synthetic stimulant. And here's what I don't get. But you can relax. Don't worry. He's out on bail. That's right. He's out on bail. He won't be sentenced until August 20th. So he can have a nice little summer. This is kind of funny. Unfortunately for him, he was arrested 3 weeks after this law went into effect, said Reagan Williams, assistant district attorney. Police pulled Proctor over on July 1, 2012. He did not have a front license plate on his Chevy Monte Carlo. Okay, number one, he was driving a Monte Carlo. I think I'm kidding. If you drive a Monte Carlo, I'm just kidding. He had suspended driver's license and no car insurance, according to the court documents. Search of the car turned up capsules of white powdery substance tucked between the driver's and passenger seats, an unmarked prescription bottle containing pills and small bags, a scale, and other things. Okay. Why am I bringing this up? Two things. One, I don't understand why he's not in jail right now. Number two, every time a police officer pulls over a person with a license plate off, didn't use your signal, potential drunk driving, whatever it is, they're in ever-present danger. Ever-present danger. So I want to say thank you to every single uniformed person in our state, be they trooper, be they police, be they guard, be they fish and wildlife enforcement, as much as you may not like to see them coming when you're using a treble hook on a single hook river. Every time they encounter somebody, there's this huge potential and of danger. Just like this, the Monte Carlo could have just as easily, the guy could have been armed just as easily. What does he have to lose? He's doing everything wrong. He's breaking every law. So I just wanted to take this time in honor of the two troopers that were just absolutely gunned down and just say, you know what, to the families and to the people that put themselves on the line every day, thank you. It's not lost on me and most Americans and most Alaskans. And so we appreciate you very, very much. Every single day you're facing this kind of idiocy in some form or another and still somehow maintain a smile almost every time I run into one of you. So I appreciate that very much. No on one. People are weighing in on Facebook. You can join me there. I'm Chris Story on Facebook. You can look me up and we ask interesting questions. And this one was, all right, what do you think about Proposition 1? John replied, pick me. I've got an opinion on this matter. Under ACE, as the oil companies were forced to scale back production, resulting in layoffs and tons of lost revenue for the state. It not only affects people who work directly in the oil business, but also those who rely on oil production to bring them work. Welders, fabricators, transporters, construction, food industry are all affected by lack of production by oil companies. Under SB 21, it has created tons of new work and many businesses are prospering because of the increased oil production. Even if you're a hippie, liberal, non-working, lazy bum, even if you're benefiting because of more people working to put the money into the state welfare system, there you have it. No on one. Thank you, John, for weighing in. Now, mind you, I have friends of all political stripes and persuasions, and they're welcome to weigh in on it as well, to the other side of it. And this is what I don't understand. It's not your oil. I'm firmly going to stand on that. It is not you. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the person that can extract it. And the person that can extract it then inherently owns it, but they owe you a royalty. And so I object to the concept that somehow it's ours and we just want to keep it there because that's where it will stay. You need the partner that will come along and extract it, put the engineering, put the exploration, put in the huge, or as Donald Trump would say, huge amount of capital that it takes to extract and use and deliver and transport and sell and then turn back into something, a commodity and a product you and I use every day. And it's what runs the economy. And so the more you incentivize an industry to invest in its own exploration and extraction of a product that then they owe you a royalty on, you're doing a favor. It isn't, in my mind, a giveaway. And I think that's horribly misleading. Are you in favor of a $5 billion giveaway? Well, no. But it isn't a giveaway. It's an incentive program. And so it will be up for debate, but I think you and I should get educated on it. Hence my invitation to Loren Lehman. And he'll be here Thursday. So set your calendar and remind yourself to tune in Thursday and hear what Loren Lehman has to say about the matter. I have the feeling Loren and I share an opinion, but truth be told, I've not read his opinion anywhere or heard him on any other program. So I'm very anxious and always anticipate something good coming from Lauren Lehman. 3 ways to make Obamacare less horrible. I don't have time for that, but I do want to let you know that Vegas Super PAC is going to drop $4 million on campaign ads. May you be a media corporation that gets some of that, and then let's bring him home. All right, let's bring him home. I'm Christopher Story. AlaskaMattersRadio.com is the website. I want to thank Horizon Satellite for bringing us our amazing program with their super fast internet. Thank you, Dave, and everybody at KPN. I'm Chris Story, reminding you Alaska matters, and so do you.